Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final episode of the Divephoria State
Ever?
for World 2023.
We're killing the name.
We're canceled?
We're definitely axing
This is how
the
I
name.
find out.
You know what? I'm going to commit to it, and we'll see if I eat crow next year for doing it. We're finding a better name for next year. We need our own unique podcast for when we all assemble. As much as I love the
Narrator.
bits and pieces.
They did not find a better name for next year.
I don't know, man. I just feel like
I'm sure we can come up with something.
we just got like Infinity War in the Marvel universe, and we're just like, what if we rammed everything together? Like, what if they just called Infinity War the Avengers of the Galaxy and Thor? That's not a good title.
To be fair,
I feel like even World's Podcast is a better name than what we have with this jumble.
that is very meta. To be fair, the current Marvel universe is kind of just that exactly. So
Yeah, I mean that
It's
is
kind of a
spiritually
mess.
what Infinity War was, right?
Yeah.
Is the Avengers of
It's
the
just
Galaxy,
everyone.
But yeah, everybody's here, and everybody's here this time. Chronicler, Kobe, Azeal, we're all here, ready for finals. We just came back from Busan, which was sick. Honestly, favorite Korea experience I've ever had. Been to this country just a couple times, but Busan was awesome. We trained back together in the most precarious way possible. There is not enough luggage space, fun fact, to fill every single rioter in Busan's luggage.
we have a lot of luggage.
Especially because there was a fish shipment on our train, so the luggage spot closest to where we were all sitting was all fish. Just tons of fish.
Yeah.
So it was getting heated. There was like a fist fight for luggage space a couple times. People were intense about this.
There was a very angry man when we were getting on the train who was not pleased about how quickly things were going.
No.
But yeah, it was kind of crazy because Riot had basically booked out a couple cars in this train,
Yeah.
and everyone who's here from Riot has been here for basically a month or so.
Yep.
So everyone has either a ginormo suitcase or multiple suitcases,
Yeah.
right? So clearly there's just nowhere close to enough baggage space. So we're walking multiple cars down the train, trying to find places to put our bag, and eventually they ended up just starting stacking all their bags in the entrance.
Yeah, imagine you're a Korean person, maybe you go home to Busan on the weekends and you work in Seoul or vice versa or something like
Happens a lot.
that. You roll up into the train, hundreds of Riot people, mostly wearing all exactly the same thing. Every single baggage
Yeah.
spot is filled. You're trying to find your seat. We're also like pretty loud, which because we had pretty much we're incredibly loud, which is normally
There's 300 people in this exact
in this
jacket.
exact world staff jacket. Great jacket, by the way.
It
Shout
is
out
a
to
good
whoever designed
jacket.
it. I just imagine that being quite overwhelming. Because I know on the way here that you guys got told to be quiet on the car. That didn't happen this time.
you guys,
I like how you point
Yeah,
at
you guys.
Chronicler.
you guys.
Well, Chronicler told
the
me the
loudest,
story.
most obnoxious of all of us.
Chronicler of his fame for being too loud.
I tried to warn the people, and the people didn't listen and ignored the advice.
What,
and
what
then
you
we're
guys
told
don't
to
know
be
is
loud.
that the reason Chronicler cares so much about learning like the customs and the culture and wanting to be polite, so he can burn it all down.
Yeah.
So we can ignore
I'm
them.
So
a
he can
rule
ignore it.
breaker.
He wants to
I'm
know
a knows where to
when-
strike.
when he's being loud on the train that he's enraging as many
Offending
people as
the most
possible.
possible
Offending the most
people.
possible people. This whole thing where
even
he's
as a
really
joke,
polite
just-
and nice all the time.
He's analyzing your
It feels
weaknesses.
bad to say it, but you're like the
no, but
nicest, sweetest,
no,
most
but
considerate
even as a
person.
joke, it just makes me like,
It just fills me with dread.
oh no.
Social
Yeah,
This is
anxiety.
I tweeted this out, so some of you may have seen this already, but you guys have all seen it, but some of the listeners may have already seen it. But the negative self-talk frog is my favorite thing from this trip.
It's so
that Chronicler brought out. And it's actually so funny.
It's on my watch now as well.
It's on your. Oh my god!
That's actually genius.
So I
the
could pull
quick
it out
access.
quicker.
So
Yeah.
anytime someone's talking bad about themselves, people have now just pulled out this little picture of a frog and it says, "Did I hear negative self-talk? Don't do that. You are fine. You are dandy, or you are great. You're dandy."
I highly recommend anyone in any friend group to get themselves a negative self-taught frog or equivalent.
Yeah.
Because it's actually funny.
People are getting frogged left
This
and
is
right.
the most consistent social trend in our group ever. This is the only time that entire conversations have been stopped down completely for someone to be like, frog. And everyone just respects it. Like, we've
Yeah.
never had something like this in the
like,
cast
all right,
group.
you win.
All right, respect the frog.
You're right. That was
Back
too
frog.
negative towards myself. I will try to be better.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
been very efficient.
Emily's
You're
getting
great.
frogged
You're
left
dandy.
and right.
Emily's getting frogged every day. Bam, bam, bam.
Like 10 frogs per minute.
Yeah.
She's.
Emily's,
That's the stat
Yeah.
next to Emily
It
of
is.
Games of Legends.
Yeah.
Emily's ratio of like expertise and knowledge and passion to frogging is way too high.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like she got like the monkey paw and she's like, I want to know everything about League of Legends. And, as the paw curled, it was like, but you'll
don't
have
think
to
you know
learn it all
nothing.
and study really hard. And for everything you learn, you'll feel a little bit less confident in what you know. And I'm like, she's so good. Like,
Yeah.
obviously deserves to feel confident. But, shout out to Emily. Obviously doing a fantastic job at
Which
Worlds.
is why we frog her.
Which is why we frog her. No
she's the
negative
goat.
self-talk. Yep.
That's such a weird phrase, which is why we frog her. Wait, huh?
Yeah.
Just
Again, we'll put that
out
with the Divephoria State name workshop for next year.
Good. I like being
We're gonna frog her.
frog. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get frogged, nerd.
Yeah. Exactly. Get absolutely frogged.
Get absolutely frogged.
Frog.
You're the greatest person I know. Get frogged.
Absolutely destroy her with love and acceptance and encouragement.
Build
So
people
that's
up.
right.
Hell yeah.
I think Busan also is such a, and this ties into just the 2 weeks that we spend there, right? The city is so different from Seoul.
It's good vibes.
And it's like, I think a lot of cities in Korea feel kind of samey, but Busan really does feel substantially different from Seoul, which I think is really, really cool.
The area we were in was also just really fun because I love being able to kind of just walk around in a city and kind of get a feel for the city that way. And because the area we're in had so much good food, you could just throw a rock and hit a good restaurant. So you could basically just walk out anywhere.
Chronicler did a couple times.
There you go.
Throwing rocks
at windows. Yeah.
Yeah,
But there were
just-
good restaurants after we went and ate there.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, it was great. So it's just a lot of fun kind of going around. And we went to Gyeonggi, I believe is the place.
Gyeongju,
It's
yeah.
Gyeongju, excuse me.
Very good.
What's the palace called? Is it Donggun
I don't remember
Palace
the
or
actual name.
something?
The pond, yeah.
Yeah, the pond was so beautiful. A few of us have posted some pictures, but the whole trip was really, really gorgeous.
Our
There's so many cool
tour guide
places.
for the guided tour was,
was-
really, really knowledgeable and
good.
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think the thing that made me the happiest in general is just like everything was so accessible. It wasn't just food. Like you could leave the hotel at any point of the day or any point in the night and have something to do within like a very short walking distance, whether it was PC Bong. I know Jat was playing like
Screen
golf, which is crazy. I don't golf, so that's kind of weird to me. But hey, it works for golfers. So it's just everything. Like you could do anything. It was all so close.
Yeah, you couldn't do screen bouldering.
You
That
couldn't do
wouldn't-
screen
that
bouldering.
wouldn't work.
You're
Where's
just going
Friday
like
Day?
this. Actually,
We'll
be
get
perfect for me because I could do bouldering without
Yeah,
needing
yeah.
any strength.
Actually,
That's good.
Yeah.
maybe you can have
Definitely
like a
do it. Yeah,
rotating,
it'll work.
like a it's like a treadmill, but it's
Just
it's
rotating.
vertical.
I think they have.
They
I've
need
seen
Wii
those.
bouldering.
I'm sure those
you know?
exist.
They got Wii Sports. They need Wii
They need
bouldering.
Wii bouldering,
Yeah.
where you like have to push the thing at the right time, and you
Yeah,
have to,
yeah,
like
yeah.
vibrates more and more furiously
Yeah.
as your arm loses strength. That sounds like a terrible game, to be fair, but I would try it for the memes at the very minimum. But yeah, I'd say if anyone here is like, oh, I want to plan a trip at some point, you know what I mean? Like it's obviously a pretty high barrier to entry to get a big international fight and find a place to stay, but like food was cheap in Busan. Busan was awesome.
And
Highly recommend
the
it.
bullet train down there, super quick, super
quick,
easy
yeah,
as
super
well.
fun.
So
When
if
you don't have 500 suitcases, there's usually enough space, I think, for you to get on there pretty quick. Pretty
and
easy.
even with the 500 suitcases, it was pretty easy, despite a couple of people losing their tempers.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're coming and visiting for World Finals or something, and you have extra days afterwards,
Hell
hit it
yeah.
up.
Go to Busan.
There you go.
Enjoy it. Past Busan, past even Korea, as we take like a big zoom out from Worlds. We're going to talk about finals soon and some other stuff. but-
Outer space.
yeah, we're going to talk about space. I'm returning to the
final
adventures
fron-
of the
final
galaxy.
frontier.
How many satellites are currently rotating around the Earth?
I don't know that.
There's probably a lot. Do you
Isn't it
know
like-
the number?
I don't.
Okay.
No, that-
I was
would-
going to guess, but
do
if you
think
don't
it's
know the number,
more
there's
or
no
less
point.
than the roster
Isn't it
rumors
like
currently
30K?
circulating?
I think it's like a,
I wouldn't be surprised if it's even more than that. It's probably something stupid at this
They're
point.
going to blot
I'm
out
gonna
the
say
sun,
30,000.
and we're going to get microtransactions in real life. You're
All right,
gonna
I have
see
the
that
answer.
sun.
Because I'm a
okay.
genius,
I
not because I have the
cheated.
internet.
Are we doing prices right
Prices
rules?
Right, yeah.
Can I say one satellite?
30,001.
Yeah.
Just going to hose Chronicler.
He goes 30,001. I go 1. He's got 30,000.
Ding ding! Chronicler loses. It's 11.
Yeah.
11,300.
The fact that it's in the thousands is crazy to me,
Yeah.
but I don't understand nearly enough about satellites to like know if that's.
I know space is big.
There you go.
That helps.
That's deep. That's deep, bro.
This is not what I meant.
Oh,
for in the
wait a
transa-
second.
What?
This one's probably not counting Elon's because this just says the ones that are operated by the
Yeah.
United Nations Office for Outer Space
Oh.
Affairs.
And that's not even including the
What
shadow government, man. Like you got to think
That's-
about
how many does
Illuminati
Elon have?
up there.
What about the spies? You know, the lizard people, the sinister cabals?
This-
What about
this
their
is-
satellites?
This is completely non sequitur. For some reason, it reminded me of the fact that the West Edmonton Mall in Canada has more submarines than the Canadian government.
Wait, that's such a great fun fact.
Yeah. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but that's what I was told when I went to the West Edmonton
That's
Mall.
up there
So
with
I was
the
just
fact
like,
that Australia
take it.
lost the Great Emu War. Like that's my
the
favorite.
emus won.
The emus. That's my favorite historical one.
Respect. Don't mess with the emus.
Don't mess with the emus,
Yeah.
man.
They're relatives of dinosaurs. I get it.
Why do you think there was never a Great Kangaroo War? The Australians learned some proper respect.
Yeah.
They knew they were
You
about.
don't mess with them. Bam, bam.
They didn't even get to the level of the kangaroos.
Yeah,
They're like emus,
yeah.
we stopped there.
Look, man.
They did the intro level. They're like,
We lost
you know
something
what?
with just legs. We can't handle something with legs and hands.
Emu's
Like,
got
we're not
hands.
ready.
All right, my bad.
Backing it up. There's no good way to transition out of this, so I'm just going to say
League of
roster time.
Legends.
League of Legends. One of the things that's been happening during the course of Worlds, and it's starting to ramp up, is obviously a ton of crazy roster announcements. We each run our own regional podcast, so at the start of next year, I'm sure you'll get to catch up on what
Nope,
all
this
the
is the
rumors
only
are.
time.
Nah.
We'll never speak of it again.
Yeah, never speak of it
I
again.
will
We won't talk
literally
about
be
new
in
rosters.
this room.
You'll be in this room.
But you
talking
won't be
about
allowed
it.
to speak of it.
We have high expectations for our
We have a
podcast
pact
listeners.
signed in
They have to
blood.
do their own
Homework
homework
before
they
come
come to our
An
podcast.
independent study. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's like the lecture. If
You guys are
didn't-
like professors.
Yeah.
Okay. The non sequiturs are baiting me so hard, but I will say that of all of the podcast sets, I love your big ass Godfather table.
It
I don't
is
know
dope.
why this room exists at all.
There's
It's
also like a kitchen back there.
this
by the
purpose
way.
of this room is unclear to me entirely.
I know-
We are in the depths of LoL Park, somewhere hidden.
I like the dining set over here.
Yeah,
too.
we got
With
a
the
dining
LCK
set.
logo. I know that there was a reason why this existed, and I know Atlas has told me, but also I forgot.
Have you ever cooked something in here?
No, but I would love to because that kitchen looks really well equipped.
It looks really well. It's like an industrial kitchen.
No, I
over
know.
there.
No, that is you can whip up a feast. You can whip up a banquet.
Yeah.
Well, I can't because I'm terrible cook, but you probably could.
I mean,
Yeah.
also, I don't know if there are any ingredients. We'll try
Well,
afterwards.
no, you'd have
Yeah.
to order them on coupon, but you could make it work.
Maybe we should just stay here until World's Finals. Maybe that's what it should be. Maybe
LoL Park is pretty well equipped.
LoL Park is very well equipped.
This
Well,
PC bang.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a little
Good chair.
barbecue Olivers out.
Where are we gonna
out there.
sleep?
That's the best quality.
In
We're
the
just
meeting
gonna
room?
we're just
In the
gonna
chair.
land.
This is we're
Just
here.
land
No
party.
sleep.
No sleep.
This is actually
No
no
sleep till
longer a
World Finals.
podcast. This is actually a live stream. By the time you start watching it, the length will be 48 hours, and we'll just have been going nonstop forever.
Yeah.
This
Play
is how
through
we keep
all of Baldur's Gate.
all of Baldur's
This is our
Gate.
4 squad
This
right
is our
here.
4 squad.
This is
We figured
I'm in.
out how to get a 4 squad to commit to something as adults
Yep.
with real lives. It's trap yourself in a
Yeah.
room and
I wasn't gonna tell
nobody
you until
leave.
earlier, but you're all locked in this room. You can't leave. Why do you think all the production left?
Yep.
Yeah, that's how to get you.
Yep.
That's how to get you to commit to the
That's how we
Baldur's
know.
Gate.
Uh-huh. Shout out to Riot Games for facilitating this. Appreciate you keeping
Yeah.
us all together.
And off-season roster moves.
Okay, yeah, off-season roster moves. So there's obviously a ton to talk about. Too much for this single episode of the podcast, but I thought we could just each go around and talk about the thing that we're most interested or excited about that we've heard about so
starts?
far. We go off Kobe.
Well, the way you introed it is talk about the thing that you're most excited about, but we all picked them beforehand.
Most
and
keen to talk
And
about.
he took
I
the one.
claimed it.
He took the most exciting one.
Oh,
so
okay, do you want him to go
I'm
first?
gonna
then?
no. I think it's good that I get to go first. Then I set low expectations.
Yeah,
then when it gets
okay.
to him, people are gonna be like, "Whoa, no way."
Okay.
Okay. So here goes. Energy have started to release a lot of members of their staff, and then the first rumor. These are all rumors, not confirmed. For player, Ignar is leaving, and this is breaking up the Energy team that had one of the greatest underdog stories, the greatest of the LCS probably,
Yep.
and one of the greatest, most powerful underdog stories for North America. It's kind of crazy after being able to upset Cloud9 in the finals like that and winning, and then coming to Worlds and also beating G2.
Yeah.
So they beat all the best teams of LCS, and they beat the best team of
In the
LEC,
West, yeah.
and we're out.
We're getting the European experience, man, and I don't like it.
Yeah, you don't like
I
it?
don't like it one bit. As
It's
soon as I saw
actually
that,
everything.
yeah,
It's the 2-0 and then the getting clapped in quarters and then also losing the team.
it's like we find a player, you know, they win their league, they come, they beat you at Worlds,
Yeah.
and then they take him. That's our thing.
Look, man, but
You're not allowed
I mean,
to take our thing like that. That's
you know, I'm just saying that like it's
Like, get
always
your
up
own
to the
thing.
it's up to the player.
You know?
I'm not trying to force anybody to go anywhere. It's just if there's a better opportunity for them, you know, over here.
They hit
in
us
Europe,
with the Uno reverse card.
yeah. Yeah, I got a bunch of tweets about like, how do you like it? Now you know our
That's
pain.
so petty. But also at this point, Ignar has gone back and forth so many times. I feel like he's a wild card. I feel like he shouldn't even need to declare his residency. People should just accept that he's just going to be somewhere else in 2 years,
And
playing
it's-
for a new team.
It's not like this team comes crumbling down without Ignar.
sure.
They can definitely find a replacement. But
Yeah.
so this is just one in
It's
a long
surprising.
line that has come. They got rid of the GM that put together the whole team. They've got
Yeah.
rid of some other staff. There are rumors that I've heard that they're not done either. There's like more people.
Well,
So
and
I
I,
mean,
think
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I think the thing that I love about NRG is kind of a continuation of the story that like started a little bit with Joju Pune, like building up domestic talent, and then like NRG having such a breakout success internationally, beating G2, which still hurts, not gonna lie, but like that's fantastic. And so this once seemingly
But
like
that's fantastic.
once okay, this like
He just
once,
frogged himself.
He is doing a good job.
this once every like so far like a one-time thing in the modern era of League of Legends, and then you're gonna break up all the pieces that managed to make that happen. It's like you have to have a ton of faith in everything that's happening at NRG to believe that they can recreate that magic. Because yes, it is one player, yes, it is just one piece of staff, but like so often teams are the culmination of everything coming together for the perfect environment, for the perfect circumstances, and most teams are spending a lot of time. Most teams that aren't NRG are probably doing everything they can to replicate a lot of the success that NRG was trying to find, and that's such a hard thing to do. So it's always makes me very nervous for the future of an org when they're like, hey, we found this incredible success and now we're gonna mix everything up.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. As far as fan sentiment goes, people are obviously incredibly excited about this team. I think you can get away with changing a player. I think if they end up kind of like wiping the board clean or changing a bunch of stuff or replacing some of the key NA players with imports, they are going to absolutely torpedo all positive sentiment that they have for this team, right? If they replace Palafox or Contracts with an import, people are going to be pissed. So I think that they have to be somewhat conscientious of that. I mean, hey, maybe they at the end of the day they don't care and they think that like we're going to make the best moves for the team regardless. But people were so excited, I think, partially because the standout performances were from NA players, right? Yeah. And it's the first time, maybe, well, not ever, but it's like one of the first times ever that we've had an NA team. Maybe it is the first time ever made quarters without a European, right? Yeah. It was like we didn't have a European import on this team. It was like NA led. Palafox and Contracts were the big standouts in that series against G2. So people were excited about it for those reasons. So I think even if they were doing well, if you in the current landscape, people are like, okay, we want to see NA talent. We've seen so many imports for so many years, and if you're going to import, you better absolutely kick butt. Like your team better be smurfing, or people are not going to be happy about it.
Yeah, I just think it was such a cool story for NRG because it did so much to break apart this story that like NA slots on NA teams for the NA players are the slots you have to carry. Like those are the ones you have to drag across the finish line.
Out of obligation, not out of like desire.
Exactly,
belief,
and you're trying to carry with the whatever biggest superstar imports you can sign to the team. But to your point, this one was led by superstar performances from the NA players.
Yeah, I just think we'll have to see if NRG can capture the same magic that they did this year. But we get Ignar, so that's great. Or rumor again, and all rumors.
You get him back.
We're completely in rumor land here, but rumor is that he's signed to Excel. I think Odo's contract's still up, so we'll see Odo and Ignar together.
Peach was also reconfirmed.
Peach reconfirmed
yesterday, I think.
So, I mean, Excel's coming together nice, which I'm excited for.
All right, you go second then.
Yeah, I will. The other thing, my favorite thing, to the surprise of no one, because I think the only thing Europeans are allowed to talk about every time we come to an international event was like, do you guys remember 2019? And we're holding on to that nostalgia like nobody's business.
Remembers.
LEC remembers. We had content. And we had wins. It felt good. We did things like play Pike in a lot of different places until it was nerfed into oblivion. Rightfully so, to be fair. Well, the G2 top side getting back together on Heretics. You got Perks, Wonder, Yankos, with Flackid. So I'll be honest, I have zero faith in this team, but I'm very excited to see it. I mean, I'll believe it when they show up. You know what I mean? I think Yankos had a fantastic year despite how difficult his roster was. I think Wonder looked incredible in Fnatic. There's a lot of things to like believe in, but I don't think that it's going to capture the same magic.
Is it like a 21 Jump Street level reboot, or is it like a live action Disney reboot?
Oh, that's a great question. That is, I mean,
that is what you're looking at. What do you think? Gut feeling. No, actually, don't think.
Over under 9 wins.
Oh, over 9. They're gonna get 9 wins. I think that like they'll
over under 12 wins.
We're in there somewhere, the 9 to 12 range.
Okay, so you're saying
they're gonna make
top
it.
3
they make top 3 would be my assumption.
Okay,
but
that's good for that team, I think.
Yeah. I don't know how to.
Top
the more
3?
that we talk about them, the more I'm like,
that's really good.
Wonder
That's
and Yankos
21
have been
Jump
so
Street.
good. Perks is on Vitality. I'm not going to blame it on Perks. That entire team was just a dumpster fire. But like, I just don't know where to rate Perks right now. I don't know how to feel about Flakkid. But if I just channel the energy I have for Wonder and Yankos right now, this team is
Squint
hot.
a little bit.
This team is sweet. If I like squint and go, wait, it's 2018, and like just see like Perks on LeBlanc kind of out of the corner of my eye, I'm like, this is the best team ever. This team's gonna contest
that
G2
team's first.
Yeah, well, G2's probably first. They're keeping it together, running it back.
It's funny because there's waves. There's the crowd of people that like the nostalgia, and then there's the crowd of people that are like, oh, but we always want newer, younger stars.
Grandpa, let's get the new ones.
Yeah, they
in.
want to like sweep them out of the way.
I came up in LEC in the era of like I'm not gonna flame anybody here, but there's a lot of players who are just getting recycled pretty endlessly, and we kind of got out of that for a while. So if we have to go back to it for a year or two, honestly, I'm okay with it. I don't think we're there yet because I've seen what the bottom of the barrel looks like, where like no player can come up through challenge.
I've seen the bottom of the barrel.
I've seen the bottom of the barrel. I have seen one player transferred across like 7 teams to no effect.
And this team isn't smelling like that.
Nuh-uh. Doesn't smell that bad. Questionable smell. Not sure do I like the odor yet, but there's a smell.
It's like when you open up your fridge and you see something and you're not sure if it's still fresh or not, but you're like, you're willing to risk it. It's looking pretty good.
The thing is it's like,
you're like, I don't know when I put that in there.
I'm not going to lie.
It could be tasty still.
G2 2019 topside, is it moldy? Yes. But is that blue cheese? Is it finely aged? Is it delicious? Is it a high quality product?
Or is it milk?
Or is it just, curdled ass milk? Am I going to take a bite out of this cheese and be like, damn, this is great.
That's
this
good cheese.
This is too high class for me. I was wrong. I shouldn't even be talking about this.
Blue cheese goes bad also.
Yeah.
Actually,
did it go bad yet?
New heretics could also go bad. Yeah, I'm with you.
This is really, really important, actually. So on hard cheeses, if it's moldy, you can actually cut it off and eat it. But if it's a soft cheese like blue cheese,
so you can just cut off the one player,
Yeah.
No,
which is what heretics
the
did.
gameplay.
They cut off a couple
Who's looking
players.
moldy? Boom.
Yeah.
Bam.
My stance on that kind of debate has always been, I actually don't care how long their career has been and what they've done in the past, as long as right now, how much drive and motivation do they have?
Yeah.
I'm super fine with a very old player. Darshan just announced that he's retiring now after a decade.
Yep.
Darshan always kept up super high work ethic and drive. And so I'm always fine if there is an old player, that has, that super drive as compared to like a new
To be clear, for me,
rookie.
it's not an age thing. It's more like, is there a player that is sitting in a bottom team consistently, not performing, that continues to get team after team after team after team? And I can understand that players, the circumstance of an individual player on a team can be so varied. Like they could be playing well and the team could be falling apart around them. But I think at its worst, the recycling players thing becomes a discussion of like, are organizations giving spots to people who no longer have earned that opportunity, which I'm not going to make a judgment call on, but I think that's what the worst version of it would look like.
Yeah. But I mean, we've also seen a lot of positive examples of people who are peaking later in their career, right? Like to go back to energy, like just because that's the easiest example.
Sure.
Dokla first came in LCS in 2017 or 2016 on Optic, somewhere around then. Wasn't that good, went down to academy. Like he is massively better than he was so many years ago, right? Even though he's like an older player, like it's not like a 17-year-old rookie. Contracts 2017 was it on Cloud9? 2016. I'm spacing out for some reason now.
Yeah, but like he fought his way back up.
Quarters.
Yeah, both those players.
And then it's like a big U, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I think that stuff is really cool, and it's important to know. Like I'm with Kobe. It's about drive and it's about determination. So I'm actually excited to see how they do, because I think it would be really, really cool. And if you get the best version of this, and then they're challenging G2 at the top, like that's actually
it's hot fire. But I don't want to jump on that. I'm nervous.
I can see the content already forming inside.
It's
like,
so free.
Like how cool is that?
Like
right?
people get upset about narratives, but these things are just like slam dunk easy.
Yeah.
Like of course it matters, and it matters to the players too. Like it's just like at a certain point it's about authenticity, and like that's if those two teams are facing down, you're gonna talk about their history because that's the most authentic and interesting angle.
Give them the chance.
Give them the chance. Yeah.
How's Korea these days?
We have no intel except June, who I want to talk about for a bit, is rumored to go to Fnatic.
Who is June? Because you said
he
that.
Never, he never.
He's a great caster.
Yeah, because I'd say
also-
if that's what I'm gonna get, if that's what
No.
we're getting, concern
No.
for my job. But
You are not getting Costa June. I want to be very upfront about that.
will he cry for
belongs
us the
to
way he cried for
LCK.
you? That's my question.
I don't think so. I think
That's a no.
that belongs only to the LCK.
And to be fair, as it should. I don't want to trivialize that moment. That was a fantastic moment. Like,
It was one
shout
of
out
the
to
highlights of
Castor
the
June.
highlights of the moment.
Absolute
of the
class.
tournament. In general, his
Yeah,
game
yeah,
intros
yeah,
are
yeah.
I can't wait for the one at finals. But specifically for LCK, I think especially because T1 is still in the running, there isn't really any intel yet because I think a lot of the LCK teams are also still scrimming them. We don't really know or we don't have any rumors.
And/or with the context of them potentially splitting up, waiting to pick apart the
Well,
pieces. Like
well,
that's
that as
pretty,
well.
That's a pretty juicy
There
roster.
was rumors online about that LCK was only screaming other LCK teams.
Oh, I know
LPL
that.
was only
Yeah.
screaming,
Which I think, like, between those two regions, that doesn't surprise me from either. I think it will just...
two best regions. They're super competitive. They want to represent their region.
Yeah, which I think is completely fair. And I know that in general, in the final week of Worlds, teams have struggled to get like actual good scrims.
Yeah,
That's just a reality.
Later. A lot of teams have boomed because there's just no scrim partners left.
Exactly. But specifically for LCK, like I haven't heard any rumors about like Hanwha, which is a team that probably is going to blow up. Obviously, D Plus is going to be completely revamped. Hopefully, we'll see Lucid, who is Baby Canyon, and the future GOAT. He's amazing. I hope he finally goes to the LCK.
like, please, Lucid.
I really do. If he goes elsewhere,
Lucid and Thanatos.
No.
Thanatos.
That was actually one of the meanest things Azeal has done to me to this tournament. It was like, I heard a rumor, Mao, that Thanatos was going to C9, and I was just sitting crying in a corner for like half an hour.
I heard the rumor.
He's not just trying to troll you.
It's not his fault.
It's not like earlier when we said you're mean and you break things all the time.
No, but that's a meme. It was just a rumor. But going back, I think it's just a little bit too early. Usually, LCK actually pops off after Worlds is done. So I expect that will be the same, even though I don't think any team is staying the same. I think even though Gen.G was the same for like the last 2 years, they're definitely going to swap just because of the international performance.
Is it Chover?
I mean, I don't think it's Chover. I think that, and this is actually
I like how earnestly you responded to that.
I mean, they also have a free-peat, right?
Yeah.
It is a really big conundrum. But we don't know anything about that, so I don't really want to go in depth. What I do want to talk about, as mentioned,
sorry, I'm still
the Chover. Yeah, it's.
Would you say they're going to keep their Corrin together?
They're going to keep Pace in the light, and I think they'll keep Chovy. And it will shock me if any of 3 of those players go. But we don't know. We'll see. Maybe they go something else entirely.
So what, aside from the expectations...
Cole's notes on June.
Now
So
I'm
back to
laughing at
June.
you trying to stop laughing by going, and pretending to be serious again. He's like, I have now stopped trolling.
I'm literally like, almost all of my life is fake until you make it. Like, oh, it's time for me to take this seriously. I'm just going to pretend. Sit back in the chair like I'm a Hollywood director who's like eating too much for lunch. Just like, ugh.
So back to June.
Yes.
June is a player that had a pretty terrible year. He was on Kwangdong, which was...
Promising start for Fnatic. What role?
Let him
No,
finish.
it gets better. It gets better.
Okay.
He's a support, and he was replaced through the mid part of summer by Undil, who is now the main support for Kwangdong. I assume will stay. But in June's defense, that was a CVMAX team, and those do have a sharp tendency to nosedive once things go south. They were reportedly like, I want to say 0-40, 0-30 in scrims when we got to the tail end.
It is sounding better.
They were in the classic. Hear me out. It gets better. They were in the classic position of having to win like a series at some point, and then they just never did and didn't make playoffs. And it was very sad. But
Okay, I'm just going to say, so far I'm more excited about the G2 topside reunion.
and here's the kicker. All of... Okay, actually, when I think back, June was also part of the 2021 DRX roster, which was one of the worst rosters. But that was before I was ready. The cool thing, and the thing you need to hold on to, and that I truly believe is most example or really good example of why this player I think is good and is going to be great, is last year DRX had one of the best runs in Challenger ever. And it was largely attributed by the rest of the team to him. They were like almost undefeated. They didn't win the split, which, that part was unfortunate.
This is an example of where you're so kind and wholesome that you've come full circle back to unintentionally roasting this guy because you're like, yeah, he's a solid player. He just starts to work on his laning.
Okay,
and
no.
his champion pool.
Hear me out.
His, like,
This is
I
actually
the core. Your
scrims.
thesis statement was it's not that bad.
Okay.
We should be excited about this guy.
You should be.
Everything you've said has been terrible.
Yeah, that's
He was pretty good that one time.
My favorite was he was in the classic position of needing to win a series and then didn't.
Okay, but he had to lane with the worst AD carry in the league, and also again that team was boom for a whole lot of reasons. They didn't have anything to do with him. I think he is very similar to Jonghoon and Delight, which were really good players that were on teams that were not good. Jonghoon was on Brion
Yep.
in Challengers, and that team was just bad, objectively. And I think that he was the standout player on the team. He went with them to some of the international tournaments that are there for like the academy and challenger leagues and LDL and whatnot. Did a great job there. Then obviously I think, even though obviously the Astralis roster wasn't that well, I think he initially
Kabe
actually
he initially alone was great, and
Yeah.
I think he was a big part of Kabe's success this year.
Yeah.
As a clear standout individual.
And Delight is the poster child of this, who was a player that was on a bad team but was really, really good. And I think that June can be the same type of player. I think this is a really smart player. The biggest weakness in the LCK was his laning phase, because the team actually looked a million times better with him on it, just not in lane. But the opposition you have in lane in LCK is going to be very different than what you'd have in another. But it's just...
But he's going to Europe.
Yeah, he's going to Europe, where all of our bot lanes are shit. I feel you, Chronicler. Yeah.
But if you're...
Sometimes the words you don't say are just as important
So
as
if
the
you-
words that you say.
The laning in LCK Challengers was abysmal, absolutely abhorrent.
Not in
Couldn't do it
Challengers.
at all. But now that he's going to the LEC,
You'll be fine.
Did you see the jokes where people were talking about why Hans Sama was so much better in Europe than he was in NA?
No,
Also, they were
wait.
doing the same thing. They're like, well, in NA he had to play against NA 80 carries, and in Europe,
I'm gonna have to eat that till MSI, probably. Maybe
So-
even till next Worlds. Maybe for a couple years. Oh, if they can't turn it around.
This is a very strong
All
and
jokes.
creative player whose one weakness I think will be less relevant, and I think he'll do a really good job.
cool.
All right, I will say that I'm excited to have him if those rumors are true.
And this was the worst sales pitch
This
of
is
all
the
time.
worst. Like the historical info, I value more than the sales.
I want
pitch,
you
so
to
thank
give you an
for all
honest
that
opinion.
context.
He was
Yeah.
really, really good last year, and I think also you can see a sharp decline in the macro of the team, which is something that challenger teams generally don't have.
Yeah.
Both in his challengers team when he left, and also in LCK Kwangdong this year.
Well,
And
you've
that's-
done a great service.
How good is his English?
to Fnatic fans? I'd
No
say.
clue.
Because the shot calling thing, yeah, that's my concern. When I hear import
Yeah.
and shot calling and team coordination stuff is their biggest strength, I'm like, well, how's that going to work second language? That's always my concern. But you successfully made me much less excited about him. So thank you very much.
I, to be fair, knew nothing, and now I do know something.
I was much more excited when I knew nothing.
I feel like I haven't done a very good job.
because there's that mystery,
have-
you know.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
ooh.
But I think you've done right. You know,
It's like when you're playing a gotcha game, you know, and you like haven't opened the box yet, right? You're like, there could be something really good in here.
Yep.
And then you open the box and it's like, oh,
Nope, wasted all my money again.
Open
No,
the
I
box,
think- I
10th
actually- I
place,
genuinely believe it's a
0-40
good signing.
scrims,
I know I
not
didn't
good
do-
in lane.
you believe in it.
I do.
You give the Chronicler
I actually
seal of
think
approval.
because there's signings like Quid, for example. I'm like,
we're like
I
for
wouldn't have
sure
done that.
an LEC producer is like sliding into your DMs next year to be like,
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
do you want to do a quick like pretty pre-record
So-
where you like stamp him with your seal of approval before this goes up in flames? What? No. I mean, before we see how he performs.
Yeah, I did that with Photon as well. I
Oh,
remember.
good. Yeah, that's your. Thank you.
yeah.
You're our guy. You're our
Um,
man on the inside.
Yeah, Photon didn't. I mean, I still think Photon's really good.
We're
It's
just-
fine. It's
everyone on that Vitality roster
okay.
gets a free pass as long as they don't stay
All
together.
right, well, we'll see how he does.
I think June's a good signing as far as challengers players go.
Wait, to be clear, is it June?
June.
Because I've been spending too much time around British people who pronounce Dune like it's June, and it's been messing my entire world up.
No,
so
I
just
mean
had
I'd
double
have,
check.
to, I'd have to like double check. We've called him June.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm really excited about JoJo and the JoJo Blibber rumors, the C9, because I don't think that's
So what,
official
what
either.
is the rumor? Are they're coming together on C9?
Yeah. So that JoJo is going to C9, that he's going to be kind of reunited with the Blibber. There's also supposed to be Vulcan going there as well with Sven leaving. Originally there was rumors that Berserker was going to be leaving, but I've now heard he's staying. So this is the NA Avengers. This is the
This
is the
the
team.
Guardians of the NA Avengers.
It is, yeah.
Oh my God.
This is the team that I think anytime someone's like not performing to the expectations that they want, they're like, if only we had like this team together, because people
Yeah.
always talk about Blibber. I feel like internationally, Blibber always gets an unfairly bad rap. I actually feel like he played pretty well internationally this year.
Yeah.
But people in NA are obviously understandably really excited about him because he dominates in the league. JoJo, I think people maybe, if you didn't watch LCS, don't really realize how good JoJo was. I think when he went to MSI and stuff, he was fine. But in summer, it was by far his best split. Like the amount of attention he got, he had the least amount of jungle help and the most amount of enemy jungle attention while still being by far our best mid laner. In lane, as far as the pressure he's putting on, he was crushing lanes while getting chain ganked teams literally by the end of the split were crafting their entire strategies around just how to shut down JoJo because they felt like if you stop JoJo, EG just can never win. And so you would have games where it'd be 5 minutes in, the support has come and flashed on him, the top lane came and flashed on him, the jungler came and flashed on him. It's like, it was crazy. And he was still being able to do pretty well. So he was like very rightfully our MVP. He was by far the best regular season player, I thought. So I think it's incredibly exciting for him to be paired with Blabber, who he is on track to be the best LCS player ever, right? Like, and I think that this is a really, really exciting development. I think the fact they're bringing Vulcan again, who Vulcan just had a bad year on FlyQuest, but I'm kind of willing to like look past that just because everything on FlyQuest went so wrong that I just refuse to believe that all those players are that bad. It's just like too many things going wrong at once because Vulcan was one of the best, if not the best support in NA for the like 3 years before that.
FlyQuest is your vitality, where you're like, this team should be so good, and then they just bomb the entire year.
Well, they were
Split
good
them
in
up,
spring.
keep them
They were
safe.
good in spring. In spring, they made finals.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about
But
that.
they absolutely bombed in summer. So I'm incredibly excited about it. People are more so wanting like more teams built around NA, more teams built around NA talent, and it just does not get better than Blabber and JoJo for that kind of a team.
I just, as someone who's like doesn't have a horse in your domestic race, most certainly, I just like the guys.
Would you
who
like a
they-
horse?
I might be excited. Well, JoJo kind of like for me as an EU fan, he talks trash. So does Vulcan. Like, great. I love these guys every time they come international, and it sucks. Like, in a lot of ways, I'm just so glad that JoJo didn't beat G2 because I would just, we'd be getting a tweet every day for the next year. But like, that's
you're
just,
lucky it was benevolent Palafox. He
Oh,
was
yeah,
just gonna
benevolent.
let you off
He's
easy.
good guy,
kind
Palafox.
soul.
Palafox.
But like, I think this is the stuff that keeps the feeling of the rivalry alive outside of just the results. Because for so many teams, it's like oftentimes if you're looking past because you just want the placement. Or you just want you just want to beat the LCK or the LPL. We're kind of looking past each other more often than not until you actually face each other, which doesn't really happen that much. So stuff like that is what keeps the rivalry alive to me. So I love players who trash talk.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. So should we move on to the GOAT team? We were talking a lot about these kind of discussions. There's so much discussion about Faker. Obviously, Faker is just having.
Faker is the unanimous GOAT. If you have another opinion, you're wrong. I'm
I
curious to see
apologize.
your reasoning just because I want to know how deep into the rabbit hole you're going. Not for here, just for like anyone out there. But like, there's just no way.
You're gonna get an
It's
essay.
the only one that's 100%.
It's
like-
just not contestable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The longevity of his career, and especially even more so now after he subbed out for T1, came back. You see how much he's doing for this team, and individually, he's having an incredible tournament. I think arguably best mid laner at Worlds, if not just straight up best mid laner performance at Worlds.
Yep.
Haven't been able to say that I think since 2017. He had been much more of that supportive role. That year he was crazy. He was on Galio all the time. So I think that is kind of just everyone agrees Faker's the GOAT. But we were talking kind of about that discussion. What would your GOAT team be?
Yeah.
So who wants to start us off? I mean, we can kind of just talk through it position by position because the hardest position for me is top. I feel like kind of ambiguous. The others where I'm starting would be Faker, of course. I kind of feel like Bengi, and then I'm Deft or Ruler, and then I'm probably Mata.
I was leaning Smeb for top.
So my free
Top is
would
hard.
be
It's really hard.
for peak. I'd say if you value like just peak, I'd say the Shy is the obvious one.
Sure, but in
Or
GOAT conversation,
Marin.
it has to be achievements, it has to be longevity, it has to be a lot.
Yeah, but how many top laners are there that actually have been like at the top?
None of them
for-
have won 2 worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah, or even have been at the top of their region with no drops for years.
Impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
It's actually crazy.
Impact. So Impact, I will not say is the GOAT top laner. I'm not going to say that. But he's definitely the greatest LCS top laner of all time, and I would say he deserves to be in the conversation for probably top 5 or something like that. Maybe he has to go further down the list. I don't know, but he should definitely get his respect because he has been playing to a lesser degree. Yes, I'm not trying to make any arguments about, but it's like he's been playing as long as Faker. And when he goes international, still does well. He's winning championships with LCS. I'm not trying to compare it to the LCK, and I'm not trying to compare him to Faker.
You don't have to,
But longevity-wise,
Yeah.
he's one of the guys who's been around the longest, and I don't think he's really had a substantial dip. Even on FlyQuest, he was the only person who looked good on FlyQuest this year.
Yeah, I think once you get out of like the people who've had incredibly long careers or even middle-sized careers, I think that's where you start to see impact. And if I had to put in the only Western name I'd really put in with confidence is probably Wonder at this point, just because of the breadth
Sure.
of achievements of G2. But I think neither of those guys were the GOAT, and
No, they're
you
not
couldn't
the
you
GOAT.
couldn't make an argument for them to be the GOAT.
Yeah, Smab, Marin, or the Shy would be one of those three. But
Yeah.
like obviously, if the Shy ends up winning Worlds, then
Yeah.
the argument
push
becomes
it
a
up.
lot
I mean,
easier.
he'll have two.
It's so interesting though because he's had such dips as well. Like I'm
Insane
a huge
dips.
huge
Yeah.
fan of the Shy. Even when he was first coming in the league, I guess it was like 2017, even pre the Worlds year.
Yeah.
I used to watch every single one of his games because I just thought he was so entertaining. Like, his playstyle is so fun to watch.
Yeah.
But over the last couple of years,
He's also just been bad.
his regional
straight up.
play has just not been anywhere close to as good.
I feel like that's really impressive though to be able to come back from a dip in its
Yeah.
in its own way. Like, yeah, if he had been dominant the whole time, of course,
he's just the GOAT.
That'd be more impressive. He'd just be the GOAT. But there's also an element to
Yeah.
the not giving up
Yeah.
and actually reclaiming glory.
It is
So
super impressive.
Top's a nightmare. Jungle is also a nightmare.
Because I think Bengi in terms of breadth of achievements, but like when I think about how we talked about
Most
Bengi
dominant?
back
No.
in the day,
Yeah.
he was never the king of the like his most like in that era of jungle. There were so many people who were like, oh, like Divephoria, the counter jungle guy. Oh, you have this guy. You have like the incredible mechanics of Insect. Like early days of League, careers of iconic junglers were often defined by one thing, and I feel like the thing that people got stuck on for Bengi is he's Faker's third summoner spell, which is like I don't feel good calling the GOAT of
Then
jungle
it's probably,
assistant
like-
to like Faker's
then it's probably
personal
Canyon.
assistant.
I'm with Kobe.
It's probably Canyon, right? Like if you're talking about just dominance, I think you probably say Canyon. It just like, these discussions are always so interesting because people value things so differently.
Yeah.
And I do think it always felt kind of gross to me to call this guy who's like winning, world championships, like just like
The
he's
summoner spell. Yeah, which
the third
obviously is
summoner
like
spell.
not fair to him, but he
He was also called the jungle, right? Because it was like he was the guy, right?
Yeah.
Like and I think that people who've played supportive playstyles are always looked down upon.
Sure.
Because it's just not as cool to see. Look at how people talked about Crown when he won. Look how people talk about Niski and I think his playstyle in a lot of ways
Sure,
when they
but-
lose. Because if you're playing more for your team and you lose, you look bad. I'm not trying to say he's the most dominant, and I don't think his peak was as high as others.
Sure.
But I just think that longevity and achievements do matter to me in a greatest of all time discussion.
Yeah.
But I could give you Canyon maybe, but I think it would be hard pressed to think of anyone else.
I think if you go back to every world championship, the one where it felt the most like the team identity was the most strongly defined by the jungle,
Dumb
it
one.
is 100%
Yeah.
dumb one.
The other one that was really dominant was Dandy Samsung White,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
which is quite a long time ago, but
It's kind of
during that time it was insane.
Yeah.
Him and
Yeah.
Mata together
Yeah.
basically solved the old way that League did Vision and absolutely dominated.
and like highlight moments too, right? He had the Prince of Thieves title. It wasn't just
Yeah.
the macro play too. He's individually popping off, having these highlight moments.
Canyon's still my GOAT today though.
Yeah, which he's at an up and down year. I think the problem with jungle is that you have so many. You have players like we haven't even discussed is like Clearlove, right? That were just the best in the region for a really long time.
Yeah, I feel like there's a
Or
lot
like
of LPL.
Diamond Procs who complete like jungle has
Yeah.
changed
Counter jungling and everything.
so much, and it's I think the role that gets fundamentally changed the most out of anything in League of Legends, that it actually remaining on top for long is just
Super hard.
And I think that the thing for me too is I do think that the further we go into League of Legends and the older League becomes, like the more achievements mean, like the more winning worlds means to me, because you're learning, and it is easier to learn all the knowledge from back in the day, certainly, but you have to learn all of the knowledge that's been accrued from the 10 years prior to yourself, and then you have to innovate on top of that.
Yeah.
And the game does change. So innovation is not impossible, like it might feel in a lot of traditional sports, right? Like the game literally changes every 2 weeks. So there's always angles to find that innovation. But players who have been around and able to like dominate consistently in the last 5 years of League, I think is like something I value very highly, because the game still changes all the time, but you've also had to learn all of this stuff from the past.
Have you really? I don't think I agree with that when I think about it. I don't think that someone who comes in today, like does Pays even know what happened in like season 1 through 5?
To be fair, all the stuff is probably hyperbolic,
Yeah,
right?
like you are, there are like fundamentals to the game, but it's like that's just known when you come in. Like I don't feel like you're going back in the history books. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you
It's
don't
like,
need to learn how
like
a lane
counter
swap
jungling
works.
and lane
Yeah,
swaps and even just like plays that were once considered really impressive. You just learn those by kind of like existing, like the insect plays and things like that. That was innovating at the time and was so incredible. But now every gold Lee Sin main can
Well,
pull off a decent insect.
they also made it way easier.
Sure,
So
yeah.
that one they've actually changed.
Sure, but you know what I mean, right? Like I don't think that the 17-year-old prodigies that are coming up actually know the history.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess you're right.
So I don't think that it's any harder to learn it now than it was then. It's just that the competition is higher. I think that the players are better today than they were then.
Certainly.
But I also think that that's just the natural development of the game.
Yeah,
so if you're arguing like, if you take the like 2023 All-Stars and you put them against the 2013 All-Stars,
of course they're gonna win.
then of course they're gonna pound them, right? But I also don't think that super matters in like a GOAT discussion, because I think you have to take people within the context of their time, because it's still incredibly impressive to stand out from your peers, even if it was like a less skilled era or whatever.
Sure.
Is how I look at it.
But that doesn't help with the jungle
Agreed.
discussion.
All
It doesn't help with the jungle discussion at
All
all.
the way back to WCG. I think I agree with this
True.
this point.
There you go.
In 2010. Yeah.
So
A Mumu player stood out from his peers.
do we want to do second most decorated for mid? Or do we just like it's Faker
It's
and who
Faker.
cares?
I don't know.
I mean, it's Faker. If you have an honorable mention, feel free.
Actually, it was Jet who I have to give full credit to him. If Xiaohu wins Worlds,
He's the second.
He's the second.
Uncontested second, which is kind of insane. Because it feels to me like my first instinct would be someone like Rookie.
I mean, he won 3 MSIs.
I know. In 2 roles.
That's the craziest thing.
The Xiaohu is
Winning as top lane also was
Yeah.
nutty. And then
I
he's
mean-
just like, all right, I'm going to
But
go back
that's-
mid and still be an amazing mid.
Xiao is such an interesting player to me because when I hear that, when Jet said it to me, I'm like, but then once you actually look at like the accolades, and I think that's where the feeling of a player is something that you can't really replicate later on, but it's very apparent when you're watching, right? Which is why Rookie, I think, is so often, and why the Shy and Rookie were as good as they were in 2018.
And I think that for me, it's like, obviously it's Faker, and then there's a big ass gap because he's just the tenure is so long. The sheer years of achievements is just so hard to overcome. But then I think it's like players like Xiaohu, it's players like Ruler that are fighting in there to be number 2, or at least, are there in the top 5. Because I forget half the time that Xiaohu didn't just win everything as mid lane. Like, it just slips my mind.
Unreal.
Because he's back in mid lane, you know what I mean? And it's just one of those things that you...
And he was making people look silly in top lane with top lane Lucian
Yeah, I
stuff.
remember
Playing
that.
Syndra top
Syndra.
man was
Yeah.
doing whatever he wanted up there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe Xiaohu's our GOAT top laner. Turn it around. He has the length of career in a different role. He's got the... Maybe that's...
I'm actually kind of on board with this.
If he counts as a top,
As top
Yeah.
laner? No, you
No.
can't.
No, I don't.
There's
There's no way.
But I do think it's
you
fun.
still count the achievements that he got as a mid laner.
If I'm trying to build a GOAT roster
This is
where
about
it's
as
just
good a
like...
sales pitch as his was for Jun.
Yeah, like sheer
Jun's
quantity of-
good, okay? Get off his back.
Is he the GOAT?
I mean, maybe he is.
No.
You're
Maybe
the
he
one
is.
on his
You're the one who
back.
told me that he's horrible.
I only information I
one-
have
yeah,
is
you're the
from
one on
you.
his back.
I had 0 opinions until
He is
today.
unlucky, okay? He's a great player. I'm telling you.
Same with Xiaohu.
Trust
if he had
him.
stuck top lane, he'd be our top lane
Yeah.
GOAT easy.
So unlucky.
And he jumped into
Yeah.
a role that's hotly contested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not hotly contested. It's just dominating.
Yeah, just dominated.
Because for a second, if you rate, and I still think Knight had a really good tournament. I think Chovy was a little worse, but like players like Chovy and Knight, where would you rate them? Obviously, Knight's higher now that he's won an international title, but
Yeah, it's hard.
versus Rookie, who obviously
Rookie has so much longevity, and
Yes.
even when his team is not doing well, he's always insane.
Scout, another one.
I think Rookie, Scout are in my top 5. I think you have to put Xiaohu up there as well, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who the other one would be.
Showmaker.
Yeah,
or
Showmaker
Chovy,
maybe.
Probably.
I would put Showmaker probably above Chovy, just because I again do kind of
International, yeah.
Yeah.
I value the international success.
Yeah.
You for sure have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have
And then
to.
I think then you're starting to get into past that, and maybe there's someone I'm forgetting, but past that, then it becomes a big mishmash of people who have like had their big moments and stuff, or maybe like
Yeah, that's what I was
Chovy's
saying.
really dominant
Yeah.
but doesn't have the international success. And then you have people like Doomby who are really good, and they have people like Knight, and you have people like all these different people.
A lot of like some of the Western names start to sneak in there too as you go down
Yeah,
a little
Caps
bit
would
lower.
be a good
Caps.
example.
You're gonna try to
Caps,
sneak that
Perks.
Bjergsen back in there,
Caps,
like
Perks.
the old
Bjergsen top
days?
10, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Bring some let's
Where's
go.
Jack? Get him in here.
Yeah, get him in here. We need a top 20 list, baby. Bring it back.
For 80 carry, there's only 2 choices.
It's Ruler or Deft,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
There's no one else.
Uzi? No, because he just didn't win
No.
enough internationally, right?
And at this point, it's like Deft. If you're talking about longevity, Deft played as long as Uzi, and he's still going, and he's going at a much higher level, I think, currently.
Worlds, yeah. I mean, after last year, yeah.
But even with Dev not winning Worlds, he also had been extremely consistent in making Worlds, which I think that to me,
yeah, it's
similar
also
to
matters,
with
right?
Xiao, right? Like the fact that he's been to South, even though his performance individually,
And Uzi,
As
since
an
he's been
important-
back, is not the same.
no.
yeah, which I don't know if you can hold against him. But I think that for me,
But if you're talking longevity, you have to
oh
compare.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
fair. Actually,
Right, like if you're comparing
sure.
Def's year this year to Uzi's year this year and stuff like that,
No,
you
you're
have
right.
to take
You're
into
right.
consideration.
And then between Deft and Ruler, I don't know. It would have been really easy had Ruler just won.
Yeah,
Yeah, it would have been.
And now I think it's still pretty murky.
yeah, I think it's actually really hard.
I
I
mean,
mean,
you talk-
Def to beat Faker in T1.
Yeah,
'Cause they
Just
also
do that.
Just
It would have been easy, Ruler.
That-
Ruler's
they-
done that a lot though in his career.
Yeah.
We had that
this
matchup
time.
graphic.
Yeah.
No, not this time. But he's actually beaten Faker about as much as Faker's
it's
beaten
pretty
him.
50-50
Yeah.
even after.
Yeah.
And with Ruler, it's also that the fact that it took him so long to win an LCK title obviously is kind of like, but he was always contesting for like at least top 380 carry within the region. He had like maybe a year or two where he was, but that's his back injury, right? He had a period as well where he wasn't really up to par. But then they also both won LPL. I think Deft won one. I'm
On
not sure if he won
EDG?
two.
I
He
can't
won
remember.
definitely won one on
He
EDG.
definitely won one. I mean, we could check. Right
I'm not
here.
100%, but basically that actually makes it harder as well. Because while if Ruler would have stuck around in the LCK, would have also been harder to make the argument for him over Deft. But now that he went to LPL and won 2 titles there as well, obviously won MSI.
he won Rift Rivals. I don't know if you knew that. I forgot, but he did. He won Demacia Cup.
He won 2016 on EDG.
And 2015
He won
because they went to
2015 summer as well.
yeah.
Yeah, so he won
2015 summer. That's regular season. Playoffs. Playoffs. He lost to IG.
Fourth. I guess it was China.
So they have
he won the
two-
regional finals.
Won the regional
He won
finals
the
to go to
Demacia Cup.
Worlds.
Yeah, he only won summer playoffs in LPL the one time, 2016.
Didn't they in 2015 as well because they went to MSI
2015
in spring.
spring playoffs.
Yeah,
Yep,
he did.
Yeah.
Beat LGD.
So they both have 2 LPL titles.
Yep.
That's hilarious.
Yep.
I give it to Deft at this point. Like, I think that the thing is,
That does have the longevity.
Yeah, when I
he
think
was around
about, like-
longer, right, because Ruler started in what 2017,
Ruler
2016,
debuted in 2016.
2016, yeah, and then Deft has been here since.
has been here forever.
since
2013.
1923 or so.
yeah, he's been back in the day. Yeah.
But that
since Prohibition, really. Yeah, he's never been the same since.
the one thing that is actually really interesting in that discussion, though, and why I think Ruler inevitably will overtake Deft, is that Ruler has military exemption because he won a gold medal.
Yeah, that does matter in the long
What
run.
if Deft wins 80
I also-
games next time?
Yeah, already. I know Deft has said he will just go back. He'll just come back, try to come back
That'd
after
be
he's
cool.
done.
I mean, definitely one bias that we talked about earlier is this, like, supports, and anyone with a supportive style isn't going to show up as much. And I think that Deft has been flashy in flashy carry metas. He's also been solid in like the supportive AD meta. But when I think of like the guy who's going to carry a team, I don't go to Deft, I go to Ruler every time. And I think that's part of the reason why Ruler stays so close. But I do think when we talk about just achievements, when you talk about how long they've stayed at like a high level, I do feel like Deft for me is the GOAT AD
If
carry.
you just want to go peak, you can also just go like Jackie Love, for example.
Yeah, peak becomes really interesting.
It's because now we're talking. I'm a longevity guy, but I feel like that's the 2 options you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause if you go peak, it would be like what the shy Jackie Love.
Peak
the
Uzi,
shy
I
for
think
sure.
you have to consider as well. Uzi
Sure.
was
Uzi
really
was so
crazy.
far ahead
Yeah.
for so long.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the fun part of that.
yeah.
discussion.
There's
I mean,
the,
they're
the
just
peak team and the achievement team.
Multiple
yeah.
generations of AD carries that Uzi is the god of,
Yeah.
yeah. Inspired so many.
But Deft also was able to deal with Uzi.
Yep.
But
True.
that's in wasn't 2015.
Support?
So
Support.
support Mako.
Yeah, I think it's
Mako.
Mako or Mata.
Mako or
I
Mata.
think it's got to be one of them.
I mean, Mako, yeah, it took a while before Mako was able
He had
to
a really rough
find
year.
that.
This year was
Yeah.
But over the career,
Yeah. I mean, I think he was the best support in the LPO for a long time, in my eyes. Like, there were certainly people who contested him.
won
but
Worlds in 2021.
finally won Worlds, yeah, obviously. And it just was there. Was the franchise player by the time that, like, all the old guard had left.
2015.
An EDG that was always very
2014.
domestically successful, right? This guy's just been around forever, and he's always been good. He's always been competitive. Again, this year, not great. And then Mata, obviously, from the perspective of innovator, right? In the same way you talked about Dandy, Mata, Mata solved the game in an era where no one else did, right? And no one else could keep up, and that's why they were able to win Worlds and like stayed relevant for years after that. Obviously, I'm gonna look at season 4 the most. Season 4, 2014? Is that season 4? Yeah. So it's hard. I think it's a hard choice. I like Mako more at this point because the winning Worlds like that in those years, I think it's just so hard.
Well, especially how deep into his career he did it.
Yeah.
It's really impressive. I also feel like for Wolf specifically, it's actually kind of a downside that he played with Faker. Because I think Wolf was genuinely a really good support. But in a weird way, because he was playing with peak Faker, and because his career didn't end great,
That's probably the same part of the same reason why I'm hesitant to like
Bengi,
give
right?
Bengi. You know,
I mean, there's pluses and minuses because you also got to win worlds
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff.
You're also
no,
in
I
the
mean,
discussion, which
sorry,
may
I
never
mean-
have happened if you didn't have Faker on your team.
specifically in the context of this discussion.
You
Yeah,
get
yeah.
less credit because you're not
You're
the start of the
with-
team.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. And I think that's true of everyone who's played with Faker probably. Maybe less so these last couple of years because these last couple of years it's felt more like, okay, he's more the supportive
and this
dude.
roster specifically
Yeah.
has just had so many star-studded moments, right? Like,
And then we had the summer incident, and people were like, okay, it's still
turns out
Yeah.
Faker.
it's still Faker, which I think is I push back a little bit on that, but it's still like even at worst, it's 70% just him.
I do think that in the next couple of years that we will have a third name. Like if Carrier can stay.
No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. I regret.
But I mean, Barrel.
No.
In terms of if we just talk about achievements,
No, not Barrel.
look me in
I
the eyes
agree.
and tell
Not
me his
Barrel.
achievements aren't
I
enough.
agree.
Not
It's
Barrel.
true.
Barrel,
You're right. It's
you
Barrel.
You know what? Barrel is really like the shy of support. I swear to God, it's actually just the same. It's so
We are stretching. and
how
doing some
this
In terms
this
of what? Like
this-
Wait, when has
okay.
anyone ever talked about Barrel's insanely dominant mechanics and laning
phase.
phase?
I
In
feel like they're
2020.
almost completely opposite.
in 2020 he was
wasn't the whole thing that he just left lane and
Yeah,
helped other
he-
lanes in
I-
2020?
I think
People talk about him cooking up some crazy stuff, but
okay, maybe I'm stretching it too far. What I wanted to
has
say
science
was Barrel
gone
just
too
has
far? Is Barrel the best support?
Yeah, Barrel in the
No,
discussion.
no,
you
that's
won't
not-
believe who they put in the greatest support of all time discussion. You won't believe who they
he's getting
compared to the
clicks.
Shy.
He's getting
Hell
clicks.
yeah, clip
So
that out.
I want to make very clear that I don't actually believe that. I think that this is Max rubbing off on me because a lot of the POC states were Max talking about how Barrel was going to make worlds again, and me being like, "No, shut up." And now I'm here. I'm doing it myself,
Yeah.
and I hate myself.
It's between
for it.
Barrel and June.
No,
Our greatest support of all time. Yeah. I mean, we're just gonna have to see, right?
Like
I
I
think
said.
that Barrel's career has been a bit too short. June
Yeah.
definitely in the
Yeah,
discussion.
give June
but
another
Barrel,
year or
Barrel
two.
needs another couple years before he's up there with June. No, I'm kidding. That's so disrespectful. Like Barrel has achieved a lot.
June
yeah.
win LEC, man. He's gonna do it.
All right, we
Believe in
will.
him.
Okay, well, let us know what your GOAT team is, and
Yeah,
So
or
what
if-
are-
if
so what are we
Barrel
ending up with?
is truly the GOAT.
So we have Faker, Deft,
Faker, Deft.
You go Deft Mako.
Yeah, I think Def Mako,
Faker,
and most
Def
people,
Mako.
I think Canyon, right? And
Canyon.
people seem more
is
on the
safer
Canyon
bet.
side.
And then top lane is still a mess. I think the roles that I'm the most curious for people in the public to weigh in on are top and jungle specifically.
Yeah.
Because I think
Those are
those
the
are the
most
ones that it's
contentious
like
by
I'm
far.
really curious. Because also as we cast more and more, for me at least, and I don't think this applies to you guys as much, but like
feel like
the
they're-
years in the jungle meta start to blur together. So that specific moment where someone really does something crazy innovative in their era,
Yeah.
I remember really well for recent years, and I remember really well for like historic years again, like Diamond Prox. You know, like,
There will for sure be people bangies and dandies.
yeah.
I think also, if you're more of a new age fan, support, a lot of people will probably say Carrier and stuff like that. Because I
I think
feel
Does have
like,
to win.
because I feel like a lot of the Mata Mako stuff is more, kind of like back end.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
more
I think
historical at this point.
yeah, and I think that Carey is a guy who in a couple years I very much expect to be very easily in that conversation.
Yeah, totally. But I'm
He
just
has
thinking
been-
from fan POV.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
a lot of people will feel him.
I mean, he has been hyped up as the best Korean support since 2020.
I think he's the best player in the world right now in this meta because I don't think anyone else can do what he can do. But let's talk about semifinals. So that's our Go team. Semifinals obviously just happened. T1 won. Weibo won.
Both
Arguably-
results surprising.
Yeah, arguably two upsets. It depends on how you look at it. I think the
Which
more.
was don't you gave me a wavy hand. No
I
one
think
saw
the T1 was 50-50.
So I think pre-tournament expectations very surprising. I think coming in with the adjustments in meta,
Yeah.
pretty much everyone. Well, I'm not gonna say everyone, but a lot of people were starting to change their minds. The
I mean,
more-
you
the
did
more I
predict
saw-
for JDG on the podcast.
Yeah, I
so
did.
also
I
predicted for JDG.
I Kobe'd it
You
up.
Kobe'd it up.
Yeah.
You flip flopped hard.
He flamed me for it, and then like 3 days later,
Did it?
Well, after I watched the other semifinal that happened before, I was like, you know what? It actually is just going to be this for the rest of the thing. It is just going to be bot lane meta stuff because I was thinking about it more, and I was like, you know what? The quarterfinals, maybe it's just a flash in the pan. Maybe this isn't actually the meta. Maybe it's going to go back to normalcy in semis. And then the first semifinal happened with Weibo BLG, and I was like, nope, it's actually just the meta. You pick anything under the sun for support, and you win 2v2, and then you win the game. And the only person who can do that on that level is Carrier. And that to me made me think that, okay, well then T1 is the only team who's actually good on red side because no one else is getting advantage of this, right? And we saw this in drafts in semifinals, I thought, pretty heavily.
Yep.
JDG as well was struggling to get good red side drafts. It's like their big red 5 counter pick is like a Renekton into an Aatrox or some garbage, right? And it's like...
No, it was
So-
that garbage specifically.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, well then in that case, after I saw the semifinals, I'm like, nope, I actually think if this is the meta, they got the best player in the world and they're the only team that can play this well on red side. All right, congratulations, T1, you won Worlds. And that's kind of how I was looking at it. So that's why I changed. That's why I tweeted it out. And that's why
No,
I put it
I
on the
want
desk.
to roast you, but I also I don't think you have the sunken cost fallacy.
No, you could
And
totally roast me because I made fun of Kobe for doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Just
actually,
last
I was like, what
you're
the-
right.
how
You're
is
right.
he
I forgot
getting the
that part.
bag?
You deserve to get roasted for, but
Well,
it's not.
but
I don't think you have
also-
to.
hypocrite.
Here's
You
the
don't
thing.
have to
No,
go
I
down
wouldn't
with
have claimed
the
the JDG prediction though. I wouldn't have claimed the JDG
That's
prediction.
true.
Yeah.
That, or well, maybe that's true. I believe you. that
I
you
would not have
done
claimed
that.
the JDG prediction. That's why I tweeted it out to make it official.
I'll take the L. I was coming into game 3 of that series. I was like, ooh, maybe JDG bring it back. Maybe it's more contested. And then game 3, when you watch T1 just pull off 2 of the most mechanically clean team fights of all time, like the flash over the Ashe.
That was
arrow,
crazy.
The incredible Faker Azeal flank. I was like, nah, this is over.
I do think with so like because this bottom lane conversation is kind of like eclipsing all the conversation for the meta right now. Top laners have had a big impact
Sure.
in these series. We just had Zeus completely smashing 369 a bunch of times. The Shy giga gapped freaking Bin, and they're actually having pretty big
And then got
impact
gapped.
on. But he solo
Yeah,
won
yeah.
them 2 games. So if
Yeah. Even in
I'm not
the
gonna say solo one. He
the
was
Rumble one, he
He,
definitely.
he slammed him for sure in the couple games, but I don't think he
At
was
the- at the very least-
Rumble
one,
and
I think
Graves
At
so.
were
the very
good.
least,
The Rumble
this
game was crazy.
bottom conversation, I feel like, is super eclipsing everything else. And top lane, as much as it gets memed on, is really having a big impact. And the Shy
Yep.
and Zeus are the 2 at the top of the game right now, clapping people.
And I
Yep.
completely agree. I think the reason that it's going to continue to be the center of attention is just because it defines your draft. And it's not that and it just changes the way the rest of the game plays. Like if you have bot priority, it trickles up to top lane. You know, it affects the entire state of the map,
Especially if you lock Bard.
especially if you lock Bard.
That's what I was gonna say. Even with the Graves pick, I thought the Graves pick made sense because the Shy locks it in a game where he knows the enemy jungle has to go bot because
Yeah.
it's against a double 80 carry, pushing bot lane.
Yeah.
It's this sort of style where it's like they can't afford to come top because bot lane is Armageddon. So I do think top lane has been quite impactful. I mean, I think all the roles matter obviously in how they kind of affect the map, but it still feels so heavily about bot lane, and red side advantage feels so heavily about bot lane. I don't think that's going to change for the finals.
As far as mid goes, we went from like one of the most explosive and flashy and cool mid lane metas in like a lot of worlds, right? It's Akali versus Silas, solo to Orianna is here every game.
They ban
Mid
Nico,
lane-
and
mid lane-
all-
I mean-
they ban Nico and the fun goes away.
The Kali's still there into Orianna.
Yeah.
On the
It's
other
there to
side.
lose occasionally. Yeah.
But
Like, maybe I can make it work.
I actually kind
nope,
of
turns out
agree.
I couldn't.
With what Kobe was saying, but I do think it is very much tied together, right? It's because when you look, and this to me was the biggest surprise about specifically the T1 JDG semifinal. I do think T1 went for very creative lanes, but not all the lanes were designed to hard win the 2v2.
Yeah.
All lanes were designed to at the very least be able to go toe to toe, but the top lane impact to me was kind of the bigger surprise of the tournament, even with how it ties together.
Yeah.
And what I wonder, because we saw this very clearly in the BLG versus Weibo series, was that it felt like in most of the games, not everyone, I don't remember the exact matchups, but in most of the games, one of the 2 top laners would be monstrously far behind, and then their bot lane would be winning.
Yeah.
And then I think it was like most of the lanes were won by Elkin On, but depending on matchup, we saw both scenarios where like the Shy or Bane would be like 0-2 and like 30 CS down, and then their bot lane would be, and it would become kind of this, can the top lane carry hard enough to offset what happened on bot lane?
Yep.
And I think that the matchup between Weibo and T1 is actually going to work very similarly. And I think that JDG, just because of what they excel at, we didn't really get to see that. Also, I think 369 just didn't have a great tournament.
Well, and the finals matchup is pretty exciting because both of them are going to try and play high pressure full map,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And that's the style where you're trying to constantly push in all of your lanes and constantly create pressure everywhere. And then it's about, all right, the jungler gets to choose, but you better
You
make
better
it
execute.
worthwhile
Yeah, 'cause it's-
because
You're giving up a lot.
you're going to pay a price on the other side of the map either way. So
Yeah. This is a great, like, I love watching this kind of meta unfold. And I think the thing that makes me feel so confident for T1 is that in that game 4, specifically in the JDG matchup where we see the Zeri Lulu come out, Keria picks the Bard and kind of turns it on its head and says, hey, look, we can go lethal tempo Varus here. We don't have to play Halo Blaze to try to win the lane early. We can both build Cole. Like, they can handshake on this. And I can leave. And we can turn this thing on its head and create pressure elsewhere. And it just feels like, with the flexibility that T1's bot lane has, and we'll see. Maybe there are going to be some games certainly where top lane gets counterpick. I think on red side, it won't all be about bottom lane, but I just think it allows them to decide. So often, is this going to be about shoving bot all game, or is this going to be about freeing carry up to roam? And I think that's it's not just that they have to
can do both.
Like, yeah, they don't just have to pick Caitlyn, Kalista, or some wacky shit just to like get prio.
Yeah.
They can interpret what the enemy team is doing and saying, oh, you want to scale? Fine. We want to scale too. Now we're going to roam better than you do instead of pushing better than you do.
I think the other thing with Bard that makes it so strong is that it's low mobility champions, right?
Yeah.
All these lane dominant picks that people are playing basically don't have dashes. And Bard is so incredibly good in that because generally, if it's a well-placed ultimate, your ult equals their flash or their death, right?
Yep.
Because there's some sort of follow-up that can come in afterwards. So I think that's one of the things that makes Bard uniquely powerful in this. It's less about the laning power, but it's about the ability to move around the map, to harass, to help with your jungler, to actually be a primary engage in a lot of these fights and force resources out of these carries.
And he can position infinitely more aggressively with Magical Journey. And we've seen it because oftentimes there are so many scaling elements on these compositions, and there's a lot of people whiffing skill shots. We've seen those
And
moments
it's also
as well.
great if your opponents don't play with Bards and accidentally walk into it twice in a series.
Yeah.
Go watch. I retweeted it after some of the Bard games.
Are you talking about the thing you made about the timing?
I swear it actually makes it so easy. And every time I see pros mistime their skill shots out of Bard ult or out of Zhonya's, it tilts me like nothing because I am not very good at this game and I don't miss those. It's very easy to do every single time. If you just watch the actual animation, there's little sparkles essentially that appear and they glow really bright right before the stasis is about to end. And you throw your skill shot as soon as they do this little bright glow and then they go back into the character and you hit it every time.
Shun had, I think, one of the... It wasn't a game, like obviously he's eliminated. It wasn't a game that didn't matter, but he actually hit like a Sejuani ult over the wall on a Zhonya's timing, but like including a dash as well, which was, I think, was the best example that I've seen of it, like perfectly knowing when it was going to time out.
Owner had one too, I think. It's J4-1. That was like frame perfect.
Yeah. Which I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah.
We have had some good ones.
We've had some amazing ones.
We've had some
bloopers.
sussy ones.
Yeah. And it's just because it's like, to me, it's almost like when I see someone in the NBA who's horrible at free throws or something, you know, it's like these are like fundamentals that you can train. It's actually one of the things at practice tool. You can take 10 minutes and just do it with your cooldown refresh on Bard, and then you understand the timing and you won't really mess it up again.
Yeah.
It's super easy.
There's like a tiny bit of variability in terms of how far away you are, blah, 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 blah,
and
blah.
skill
But
shot
it's still
speed,
all
but it's really easy.
replicatable. They haven't changed the Q skill shot speed.
Yeah.
So
I mean, a lot of people just don't think about there's a visual indicator.
Yep, exactly. People just try to ballpark it. And when I was making that video, the reason I made that video is because I started talking to a bunch of pros and I was like, oh, how do you guys time stasis? And they're just like, well, it's just a feeling, right? And then some people were like, well, you count it out. And I was trying to do those because this is when I started playing Bard a lot, and I was like, this is terrible. And then I just started noticing after playing Bard a lot, and you're just seeing the animation over and over, I started noticing the actual animation.
Yeah.
But it is very distinctive. I have a video on my Twitter if you guys want to see that.
It's a great video.
good video.
There you go. Yeah, and shout out to Graham who edited that. He's the GOAT. Speaking of the Azeal Ori matchup, I feel like Azeal is such a bait. And I think that people were going into this tournament and looking at like the Azeal Ori matchup as similar to what we had seen with Azeal versus Victor in the past, where it's like, this is a mid laner that doesn't have a dash, and then you get 6 and you go and use your ult, they have to flash, and then your jungle comes back and they die, and you're going to repeat this. And it never works at Worlds. And I don't know if it's just that the players are too skilled or that Ori, has a really good safe wave clear.
The amount of
It's
shit that people dodge with just the dissonance speed up is insane.
So
like people are so good at using that movement speed steroid.
So like when I was looking at my phone, I was trying to look up the actual matchup specific stats to see if it was just like confirmation bias or what I was thinking.
know.
So Azeal has a 20% win rate in the matchups against Orianna at Worlds,
But
and so it's in 15 games. So
And
Yes.
two of those
All
are
of them.
Faker. I'm looking at 2 Faker
All-
Azeal
all
and
of them
Orianna
are.
wins.
yeah. So everyone else
3.
everyone else
Yep,
has
there's
lost.
the other one.
And it's like not only that, but you're losing the laning phase on average. You're not able to actually capitalize, and the Ori is just way easier to execute on and follow up on, right? Like Azeal, yes, does have these big moments and can have the potential for those big plays, but like this
Unless
has been
you're literally Faker.
But that's
literally Faker, or you're
been-
playing
it's
against
been the
literally
single biggest trap
Kanavi. Those
matchup.
opportunities will not present
it's been the
themselves.
single biggest trap
But-
matchup I think all worlds.
But I agree. But going into finals specifically, that is one of the issues that I think you're going to solve as are going to have to solve as Weibo. A part of obviously the Shy needs to have a good day, right? We need to see Light and Crisp actually be able to stand up. I do think that they've skilled really well into the tournament, but specifically when it gets to draft, I feel like T1 right now is really hard to prep for.
I'm going to be honest, and I don't want to like deflate the World Finals because I think it's still hype, and I really hope that we see an insane best of 5. But I'm gonna deflate it. I think T1
What the-
clear in every role, and their draft is infinitely easier and better. Like, and I don't think that's a bold statement. This is an impossible puzzle.
Congratulations, T1. There's no way Weibo can come
Yeah,
back.
and if I jinx it, great.
I mean,
Sure, I'll shave my head
okay.
if Weibo win Worlds. That's the easiest like layup. It's
Me
not
too.
It's
I'm
not
with
bold.
you.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. I don't think that's bold or hard. I'll shave my head if Weibo wins.
Give me an
Worlds.
eyebrow.
yeah.
No, no eyebrow. I'll take the shaved head. Eyebrow is terrible, bro.
Can we
Eyebrow
get like
is
some like
nightmare
weird
fuel.
lines in your beard or something?
Weibo logo in the
Like,
beard.
what's the
Can we
guy
get
with
like
the weird
a
shark
zebra
teeth?
beard? You know, you can do like like every other
So-
line
No,
is
I'm
shaved.
not that committed.
No?
No, because I just
Then quit deflating.
okay.
Yeah.
Reinflate.
Pump it back up.
Yeah.
Reinflate. The good news is, Cadril made a really cool Shy song.
No.
That if you listen to for 3 hours
Hear me
straight
out.
while just drinking coffee for like a couple hours while you're doing it, you will eventually manifest and believe in your mind that the Shy can do anything.
What about the fact that all 3 of the tournament favorites are not in the finals? Genji got knocked out, JDG got knocked out, LNG got knocked out. That was, I don't know if you agree that those were the top 3, but most people had those
Yeah.
as their
Yeah,
top
yeah.
3. I don't know if you had T1 in your top 3 or not. I can't remember.
No, just I mean,
It was Genji,
I,
JDG, somebody else, maybe
Okay.
LNG.
No, the one thing I said about T1, I wouldn't be surprised if they make finals and then
Sure.
lose.
But
Which
I-
I hope
but
is.
but
I
either
don't know. I
way-
no longer think that. But I agree.
As much as the Swiss, most of Swiss, I think, didn't have upsets. We had some upsets towards the end. I think TL losing again was an upset. I think, Energy beating G2 was an upset. There were some upsets in there. But largely, Swiss went to chalk. Then when we come to knockouts, I actually think the majority of them, maybe you can pull up the bracket so I
Yeah,
don't.
I got
Yeah.
it.
So we had,
too
so we had
deep
Genji,
but it's
BLG,
like,
obviously huge. No,
Genji, BLG was huge. I think
I-
it was a huge upset.
I'd say an upset. I wouldn't say huge given MSI.
Okay.
But they were definitely.
That was.
You can argue huge.
I'm
I
going
think
to argue upset at the
Sure.
very least.
Yeah,
Weibo
always.
went to chalk. JDG beating KT. I would argue I was surprised with how competitive KT was because they
Yeah.
were very close to forcing game
JDG
5.
were supposed to be the clear favorites.
Very
there,
close
yeah.
to forcing game 5. I would say I was very surprised with not that T1 won because I thought T1 LNG was pretty close, but I was super surprised that it was a 3-0 stomp.
Agreed.
And, yeah.
JDG T1 with pre tournament
Tournament
expectations,
expectations,
I would have been
JDG should've
surprised.
cleared.
But going
Yeah.
into that, yes, I thought T1 was going to win, but still, Weibo beating BLG, very surprising to me. So it's like a lot of these have been surprising, or at least to pre-tournament expectations were very surprising. And DRX, I thought they were going to get clapped at most of the stops last year, and I know people are going to keep bringing that up, and it's not always apples to apples, but there's been a lot of examples in knockouts of surprising results or unexpected results or things being more competitive than you think. So as much as I agree with you, if you're just looking at on paper and how the tournament has gone, I think T1 should 3-0 this and slap, done. Congratulations. But it hasn't been how a lot of the things have gone.
Yeah, I'm.
Pump it back
So
up. Pump it back
okay.
up.
Oh wait,
I-
we're pumping it up. Yeah, we're pumping it up.
I think it becomes a question of
It's
whether.
leaking.
It's time. I can't. I'm looking at this. I'm reminding myself of Weibo's tournament run.
He's in a little
No,
dinghy.
don't do that. Don't look at the path they took here. The only thing that matters, because
Squint,
it
just to
doesn't
the end.
matter. The only thing that matters now is the performance on the day
There
in
you
the
go.
best of 5.
Yeah.
No,
Nothing up until this point is relevant. And what I want to highlight is that specifically for this T1 roster, they have been in this position, I'd argue, 2 times already, and been actually 3 times because you can also
You
argue
can count
that
semis and
so-
stuff as well.
Okay, yeah, but specifically in finals, they were supposed to be coming into MSI the favorites, 2022, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Given how dominant they were domestically, how well they played the meta, how well hyped up this team was, they had a much better performance than expected. Didn't deliver. Same for Worlds, right? Even though they didn't win the finals in LCK. They weren't really expected to because of the meta.
Yep.
It shifted away. People were expecting T1 to be better, ended up to be true. Didn't make it happen. Then, to me, the real killing blow was not only did they punt their finals this spring, which is easy to forget, but they were the heavy favorites coming in. And they got boomed by Gen G, which partially is the meta swap because they did really well because of the specific AD carry meta, which now has come back, or bot lane meta. But they punted that as well. And then at MSI, got really close and weren't able to follow through. And I got blasted by BLG.
And look, the problem, like,
I think that they've...
I think the struggle is...
I think that they've learned. I think that, like, and I'm willing to have faith, but if they have not learned, the exact same thing is going to happen as has happened the last 3 times.
Also, isn't there Omega pressure, I feel like, because it's kind of known and the players have said this is probably the last time they're playing together. So I feel like if it was me, it would be easy to get in the mindset of this is the best chance I'm ever going to have.
Yeah.
It might be your last chance ever, right?
Oh, I mean, there's a ton
know.
of pressure. Like, I think there should be very little pressure on Weibo. Nobody expected Weibo to get here.
Yep.
Like, T1 have such a history and such a pedigree that them being here, it's cool. But people in general are just like, oh, they're back. The instant assumption is, oh, they're back. No one is, I think, saying that about Weibo. The shy, diehard fans who are like, he's always been good. Those people probably saying that. But those are the only people saying that.
We also, in 2021... because both the NRG or RNG EDG series and the Gen G EDG series were not great. They were very messy. They were very hard fought.
Yeah,
they were very like all over the place. Don't get me wrong. I think T1 should be favored. T1, I think, is a much more well-rounded team. But I also think that we've seen so many times over like the last 2 years that all that matters is how are you looking on the day.
Yes, all that matters is how you're looking on the day. But like every measurable or visible metric is so stacked in favor of T1.
I agree.
I feel like at this point.
How about the amount of the shies on a team?
That metric, they are getting cleared by Weibo right now. It's not even close.
Yep.
Infinitely more the
That's what I
shies.
thought.
I mean, it's only one more. So let's calm down.
1-0.
1-0, baby.
Let's calm down.
If I'm using multiplication, this is how we
Shut
lie
out.
with
Let's
stats.
shut out.
It's a pretty close finals. All I'm saying, it's only one.
Yeah. One spot away, yes, but infinitely more the shies.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that is the angle. I mean, you're right on the day. Like, look, on the day.
That's
anything
the
can happen.
angle?
Is the shy? That's, I mean, at
You're
this
blowing
point,
it back up with...
the shy and Xiaohu. Return to form, iconic players, you know.
I think
Crisp and light, too, in the right circumstances. I mean, like, the roster overall is pretty good.
I don't see it for Xiaohu, but I do see it for the rest.
I think Chris also was one of the main drivers pushing it towards this bot lane meta in the first place.
They bust out the
there was
Heimer
9, 10 games in a
Emilio.
row that he either picked Renata or had it banned against him. I think it might even be more at this point.
Yeah.
But that it was I want to say 9 pre-semifinal that they played. Maybe it was 10. I can't remember the exact number. But anyway, then he went Lux, then he went Heimer. Like they were, yes, it's not the exact same way that Carrier did it, but I think that kind of almost gave permission in a way for people to get really inventive with it. They're like, well, if you're going to play Heiner, well, I can play this. If you're going to play that,
Caitlyn's
I can
for it.
play
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Oh, you're going to play Ashe? Well, now I can play Santa Calista. Now, you know. So I do think that there are angles for them to win. I think that Weibo, people forget at times that this was a super team built to do this, right? No one expected them to because they weren't that good throughout the LPL. That's just the reality, right? And people who want to tell you that Shy has always been at the top, well, they didn't watch the Shy because he was pretty bad for a while.
No, you don't understand. He was holding back his true power.
True. He was charging up all these years.
Wonder where you heard that.
Yeah.
But it's I do think that Weibo at their top can be really, really damn good, right? These are some incredible players. There's 2 world champions. There's a 3-time MSI winner. Like these guys are good, and I do think the respect has to be given there. I agree with you. I think it's heavily T1 favored, but I don't think you can just gift wrap it and give T1 the championship before they play the games.
No. I agree. I just think that like once we enter the realm of intangibles, suddenly we have a conversation. I just think that like based on what we've seen,
We're all going to predict T1, right?
Yeah, we're all going to predict T1. I will say that like literally anything can happen, and it's happened so much in this bracket stage. And maybe I feel like more in this tournament than any other tournament, where it just feels like a team shows up, has a great day against a team who showed up and clearly is not playing at their peak. But that has happened a lot. That's why we've had so many upsets, I think, is we've just...
how Weibo got past the giants of NRG.
Yeah. There's just... NRG weren't, after taking down G2 handedly and being the clear favorites for the tournament, they just punted on the day.
Yeah.
I mean,
as long as we agree that they took down the clear favorites for the tournament G2 and then punted on the day.
I won't chip in. You
But
guys,
thank you.
let's take it away.
Thank you.
everybody will always accept underdog possibilities of winning now, though, because of the DRX story. Like, that was just last year.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of parallels with
Yeah.
Weibo, 4th seed.
Sure.
Also not even,
And I
placing that
won't.
well.
I hate using that stuff for predictions, but I think it is the constant reminder that like it is just who shows up on the day. This Worlds especially has been a reminder of that, and like it is possible. Is there anything that would make me predict Weibo? Like, no, probably not at this point. But if I come out of here with a bald
What if
ass head,
Hobie's subbing
I
back
have to
in?
be like, that's just League of Legends.
Would that make you predict them?
We don't.
What?
That's
Hobie's
not,
subbing
no.
back in.
No, we don't.
Oh.
No, that would. Yeah,
Yeah.
immediately. Because
Yeah, that
that
would.
actually.
Because like I don't know any of these people personally, but if I got I gotta gas my boy up. You know? I can't let him down.
So to me, the main difference and the reason why I really feel like I think it's more likely to be a dumb monsooning situation where I think Weibo will still get a game, but I'm expecting a 3-1 here, is specifically Xiaohu. Because I just don't think that he's actually been good this
Had a really
entire
bad
tournament.
tournament.
Yeah, it's not been
Like
good.
we know this guy's good. We talked about him earlier. If he does end up winning, even if he has a bad tournament, it would solidify him as probably the second best mid laner of all time, just because of the virtue of how long his career was, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But I do think that if you look at the calibers of players that he's faced, he should have been able to do way more. And I feel like he's mostly been a passenger or a detriment to his team. And that to me is something that I don't. Because even if you go back to Zeka, right, like last year, which is a really good example of a player that peaked at the right time,
Sure.
Zeka was already doing that in quarters. And he was also showing that in semis. And he was also, if you go back, obviously we didn't know the time.
He can't copy the homework exactly. You got to change it a little. I'm
Well,
going to peak in
All I'll
finals
say is
instead.
It's weird to say this, but Faker's that player this year for me. Like I didn't expect him to be nearly as good against Scout. Like
No
I
one
didn't
did.
expect him.
He played Scout and Knight. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the man is
beat them.
peaking at the right time, and it's weird to talk about him
Scout
in
was
the conversation
dipping,
because that is
too.
a guy who came out of nowhere, right? Like that was not expected at all. But
I mean, for Faker, Faker, and we don't know how much of this was contributed to the injury, but Faker and the rest of T1 early spring were just rough. And this is not like worst team in the LCK rough, but it is like they were a middle of the pack team at the beginning, right? After MSI, just not able to really deal with what was going on. And the fact that he was able to come back after his injury and then get the team to finals worked up until the point where they were like in prep. Gen G was able to ban them out. And that is the one thing that I'm really curious to see what Weibo is going to do in draft, is if they are willing to test. Because we all know Faker, like, to me, the thing with Faker isn't that he can't play almost every champion imaginable, because I'm pretty sure he has, like, the biggest champion pool out of anyone, just by the virtue of him being Faker and being played forever. But Gen G was actually able to ban out, because even though Faker will still be good, he won't be able to do the thing he did on Azeal.
sure.
Yeah.
If he has, like, I think that Orianna, Nico, and Azeal, or Silas, if he gets any of those, you'll be fine. But I do think that Weibo can go in a game one and try to heavily target Faker and see what happens if you, like, ban away a bunch of the mid laners, and then you'll end up giving up Jarvan. You'll end up giving up, like, Rumble or something. But I think you need to take a big gambit if you are
I agree.
Weibo. And again, it wouldn't surprise me if it backfires, but Faker has played 3 champions this entire tournament.
We watched through most, if not all, of those games together, like all the T1 games and playoffs, and yeah, Faker did not look the same off of his comfort, right? And even on Nico, I think he had like some good games, he had some really bad games, right? There was much more up and down, and also part of it, I think. It was a two-pronged thing for me in the LCK playoffs. It wasn't just that they were taking away some of these champions, is that they were really heavily attacking him and mid lane, right? There was like so many ganks going towards him. And when he was off of these champions that have mobility, you know, in particular this year, I thought that was his best throughout playoffs.
Oh, KT threw so much at him and it didn't work at all.
And so it's like, you know, if you can take him off his pick and then really attack and make something happen that way, then I think that's an angle. I think if you just throw a couple of bans towards him and then just like let them lane, it's not going to be enough.
Yeah.
I think you have to take him off of champions that are safe champions and try to attack them and try to put them behind. And I think it would have to be that kind of two-pronged strategy. But I do think that's a smart angle to attempt, right? Because people are going to say, well, yeah, but then what about carry and what about this and what about that? But the problem is, I don't even know how much you get with all these bot lane bans. Like, if it's really as Wild West as it seems, you could just pick so many. Yeah, I just don't think it really accomplishes that much. So
you ban the ones that you find completely unlaneable, and then you pray and you figure it out, because
And you can also trade OPs. If you just ban no OPs and you only ban like, one person out, you can sometimes just trade OPs.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to see how they actually play the early levels too, because coming into the tournament and even qualifying for this tournament in regionals, Wei was his best moves was the Poppy game. He got like 5 kills going down bottom lane. They did the same thing. They build up a big wave. They're gonna pick these double, range matchups down here. So it's very gankable. When you don't have these tank engaged supports, it's pretty easy for junglers to have a very big influence. So like the jungler battle over all these bottom lane, crazy picks that are gonna happen too. I don't know. I like the idea always, if there is an underdog, of then trying to come up with a way for them to get wins and get through the series.
I mean, I like the mid angle from what we talked about so far. Wei going bot feels like you expect it, but obviously if you can put enough resources down, it doesn't matter if you can expect it.
Also, if you don't have push, it doesn't work, right? So you have to be winning the 2v2 first. That's the hard part, I think, when carries.
But we just haven't seen Faker this tournament pushed off comfort, and so that's where I feel like we're at with options. We need to see a team put T1 in a position that they have not shown us before, because that would be a losing position essentially.
Yeah, and that is, I think, the only possible angle, and you'll end up giving up a bunch of really good things. And that to me is really where it comes down. As long as T1 is able to maintain the performance they've had, I don't think there's an angle. Because if Owner and Zeus keep playing the way that they have thus far in the tournament, and they end up getting like a Rel Rumble or something, and then Faker is having a rougher game, you're still screwed. There needs to be a lot of... But
that Maokai game from Owner was rough. It's not they're not unbreakable.
But it wouldn't be the first time for Zeus to underperform in a final. So it's not impossible. But I do think that the stars need to align in the right way. And the plan
but if you're forced to be like, okay, this is going to be the way that they are going to win.
Yeah.
Then that would be my angle.
Then you have to lay it out.
Right? In a perfect world, if you can get Faker off a comfort matchup and you can put Owner back on something like Maokai or something that can't engage or do things as proactively, that's going to be stronger reactively. Just Maokai. I think that like there's a world where you can fight back. I get worried if Weibo is going to be able to do what JDG did in the game 2 against T1, which was like eat so many of those engages, turn the fight, because I think that requires so much communication and discipline that. Like the Weibo BLG series was a hot mess. Like it was intense. There were some great moments, sure.
Game 5 was
Game 5 was great, but there was a lot of sloppy moments too. You know what I mean? And I think part of the reason that obviously the reason that JDG were the favorites coming into the tournament was they could so reliably do that one thing, which was the second you make a bad mistake on an engage, they could turn and punish you. And I just don't know if Weibo can replicate that.
And I'm just so concerned for their ability to win on red side, right? It's like we look at the Weibo PLG series. It went 5 games, all 5 were won on blue side, right? And I just think that is the biggest hurdle. Even if they're having their day and they're playing really, really well, I just don't know if Weibo is going to be able to replicate the same level of success on red side that T1 can get.
Yeah.
I like the conversation that you guys started though around like attacking a single player, like Faker or Owner. Because in team games, sometimes, and especially mentioning the stakes of World Finals, trying to play the mental game and just purely focus all of the attention on one person until they start to doubt themselves on stage and start to feel more pressure can actually win you an entire series. I mean, if you're able to get inside one player's head and then they're second guessing all their choices and everything.
Yeah, there's a world where... has coin toss happened yet?
Might be hard to do that to Faker. That's why I was like, Owner's a better target for that because Owner's actually had a shit summer.
And for me, it's like we talk about the Shy. The Shy had a crazy series, right? It's like there's a world where they're on red side, which probably not they would probably much prefer to be on blue side, but you can use red side counter pick and you can try to just push really hard on the top side of the map.
Yeah, I would invade Owner over and over and make him revert to summer form.
Yeah.
Just tilt him. There you go.
Damn, it's tough. Like, to be clear,
it all comes back.
I got no allegiance. I got no horse in this race. I want 5 games. I just think it's so hard, man.
Yep.
Short of the intangibles, something like breaking someone's mental.
Yeah,
something
we're all agreed.
Yeah.
We're all agreed it's super heavy T1 favored. All right. Should we just move to predictions?
Yeah, predictions.
I'm 3-0 T1. After all that, I just don't see it. I just think that they're...
Can I get a quick aside?
Yeah.
All right. So my boy Azeal's casting finals. and it was the first time, alongside this guy right here. And there's one other person, the play-by-play, who shall go unnamed. It's not me, but you can maybe process elimination it just because he's not here. I just want to say, like, I'm super excited for both of you.
Thank you.
And I'm sad that we're now having a podcast where we talk about how one-sided the series is going to be. But I think that's awesome. And I just want to, fans don't get a lot of, insight until they see the cast there. But I think it is an awesome moment. So just shout out to both of you. Kobe, obviously, on the desk, chilling. He'll be there, too.
And Kobe's the GOAT. He'll probably be casting next year.
Kobe's the
I'm
GOAT.
super excited for you guys.
Yeah,
Thanks,
this is awesome, man. I just want to make
Appreciate
sure
it.
that we acknowledge that because I think that's so sick. I think that's so cool.
I mean,
Yeah.
you spoiled the other. Just say Atlas also.
Atlas, yeah, it's Atlas too. I don't know why. I don't know. He wasn't here, so I didn't want to take. If he wanted to announce it for himself or whatever,
Well, you
I didn't
didn't
want to
ask
take
them ahead of time,
I
did
didn't
you?
because they deserve
Oh, you
praise,
didn't.
but I didn't.
Yeah.
But I didn't really think about that.
So you didn't ask them. So you
That
just,
was actually messed up of
I
me.
don't-
I wanted to make sure my boys got their moment, and I didn't think that.
And I took it from
I
them.
actually don't respond well to praise, so you didn't need to do it at all. But I do appreciate it.
Yeah, I know you don't respond well to praise. I
Yeah.
didn't know if either of you were.
But
good
I
at it.
appreciate it nonetheless.
You know
It's
who
very
else
nice.
should be casting World Finals one of these days? Is my boy Daniel Drakos.
Right
I'm here,
there.
man. I'm here. They need me. They know where to get me.
Yeah.
Soon.
Soon. All I care about is your guys' moment to shine.
Yeah,
and
I'm
actually,
not
yeah,
gonna
good point, Kobe, because that's my bad. Because I was like, I want to make sure they do it.
Well, he was like, Atlas isn't here, so I'm not gonna spoil it for him. I was like, what just went on then?
Yeah, look,
I
I did
don't-
some
I don't
some
mind.
questionable math there. You know what
So-
I mean? I didn't
I
add that
bet
up
they
right.
were like really looking forward to their announcement
I've got my
tweet. They're
great
like, all right,
tweet.
we're gonna have this like.
Yeah, I've now inserted myself instead of being a supportive friend. I've now inserted myself into something I'm not a part of.
He wore white to the
think-
wedding.
I did wear white to the wedding. That's my bad, boys. I was trying to gas you up. That's my
I
mistake.
think you're being way too negative.
No, oh, damn, dude, no, I might have. I took some. Whatever. All right,
Frog
yeah,
'em.
I'll eat the frog. I'll
Yeah.
take the frog. Got frogged. Anyway, that's all I want to say. So I think that's
Thank
hype.
you.
3-0. I
you,
also
homie.
say 3-0. For your guys' sake, I hope 5 games. I hope it's a hot.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 3-2 because it's gonna be a banger series.
I think 3-1. I think it's like 2020.
Everybody T1. We've cursed
Yep.
them.
Have to.
We've come together.
Yep.
People can't see it, but we actually
All right.
drew this like ritual circle here on the table, and we were actually just cursed them, and now it's for sure a Weibo win.
As long as it's a 3-2.
As long as
As long as it's a 3-2.
That's all we want. I think that's it then.
That's it. That's the run.
That's
for
the run for the
Divephoria State.
Divephoria State.
And according
For
to
the
Drakos,
Avengers
the last
of
episode ever.
the Avengers of the Galaxy, baby. We did it again.
I know it's not the best name, but I have grown to appreciate it.
How about we can be the Podvengers?
The Podvengers. Yeah, that would be
That
sick.
sounds kind of sick.
That would
Yeah.
sound kind of sick.
I'm down for that.
Yeah, I think the people who are protesting in favor of Tide Pods, though, are going to be really mad that we took their podcast name away. That was my final dumb joke, I promise. Anyway,
No,
this
go
has
on.
been episode 5 of
All
the
the rest of the
Divephoria
jokes from
State.
here on out are gonna be gold.
Clean, great. If you're in Seoul, looking forward to seeing everybody at finals. I won't be here, but they'll see you guys at finals. Fan Fest going on as well. There's so much cool stuff happening this week. Can't wait to see the opening ceremony. Can't wait to see the games. Obviously, very excited for the broadcast. Thanks so much to everybody who tuned in and listened to the podcast over the course of Worlds.
June's gonna be good. Just wanna bring it back to that.
Yeah.
I feel like I did him such a disservice.
See you next year.
Yeah, see you next year. We'll be back.
gotta be good.
Bye.